Before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe and comment down the most haunted place in your town. Every fire lookout tower has rules. Mine had one extra. Never acknowledge what you see after midnight. I'm Ranger Jake Morrison, stationed at Desolation Peak Fire Lookout in North Cascades National Park, Washington. 7,000 feet up, 360-degree views, 14 by 14-foot cabin that's home for 6 months during fire season. I've worked lookouts for 8 years. This was supposed to be my most isolated posting yet. 40 miles from the nearest road, supply drops every 2 weeks, radio contact twice daily. The previous lookout, Sam Chen, had quit after 3 weeks, walked down the mountain in the middle of the night, refused to explain why. The district ranger said he'd had a personal emergency, but the maintenance crew who cleaned out the tower before I arrived told me they'd found scratches on the inside of the windows, deep gouges in the glass like someone had tried to claw their way out. And they'd found a journal, Sam's journal, just one entry, dated his last night. They're not people. I thought they were hikers at first, but people don't move like that. People don't watch like that. And people definitely don't stand in the same spot for 11 hours without moving. Do not acknowledge them. If you see them, look away. Never let them know you can see them. I should have requested a transfer. Instead, I unpacked my gear and reported for duty. The first week was perfect. Clear skies, no fires, just me in the mountains, and the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. I'd scan the horizon with binoculars every hour, log weather data, read books, cook simple meals on the propane stove. At night, the stars were so bright they cast shadows. On day 8, I saw the first one. A figure standing on a ridge about 2 miles south, visible through binoculars. A person in dark clothing, just standing there, facing the tower, not moving. Hikers sometimes wave when they spot the tower. This one just stood. I watched for 10 minutes, no movement. I went to make coffee, came back 15 minutes later. Still there, same position, same stance. By sunset, the figure had been standing for 6 hours. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a rock formation I'd mistaken for a person. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks. But through the binoculars, I could see details. The shape of a head, the outline of a body, even what looked like hands hanging at its sides. After sunset, I couldn't see it anymore. Too dark, too distant. But at midnight, when I got up to use the bathroom, I glanced out the south window. The figure was closer, much closer. Maybe half a mile away now, standing in a clearing, visible in the moonlight, still watching the tower. It had moved 2 miles closer without me seeing it travel the distance. I remembered Sam's note, never acknowledge them. I looked away, went back to bed, didn't sleep. At dawn, the figure was gone. Day 9, 2 more appeared, one on the eastern ridge, one to the north. Both just standing, watching. Both staying for hours without moving. Day 10, there were 5, different locations, all watching. By day 12, I counted 17 figures scattered around the tower, all standing motionless, all facing me. Some were close enough that I could see them without binoculars, human-shaped but wrong somehow. Their proportions slightly off, their stillness too absolute. I reported it to the district ranger during our evening radio check. I've got people surrounding the tower. They're not moving, not responding to radio calls. Possible lost hikers or... Morrison, are they there during the day? The ranger asked. Yes, all day. They just stand there. A long pause. How many? 17 right now. Another pause. Jake, I need you to listen carefully. Do not approach them. Do not signal them. Do not acknowledge their presence in any way. Continue your normal duties. This is important. Act like they're not there. What are they? We don't know. But every lookout in the North Cascades has reported them. Some see them, some don't. The ones who acknowledge them? Well, we've lost 3 lookouts in the past 5 years. 2 disappeared completely. One was found at the base of his tower with every bone in his body broken, like he'd jumped or been thrown. You're telling me there are things that aren't human watching these towers, and this is just normal? We don't know what they are. Park Service has had investigators up there, brought in experts. No one has answers, but the pattern is clear. Ignore them and you're safe. Acknowledge them and he trailed off. Just follow the protocol, Morrison. Never let them know you can see them. That night, I covered all the windows with blankets. If I couldn't see them, I could pretend they weren't there. But I could hear them. At 2:47 a.m., footsteps on the catwalk outside, the metal walkway that circles the tower cabin. Slow, methodical steps, then more footsteps. Multiple sets walking the catwalk in circles around my cabin. I sat in the center of the room, as far from the windows as possible, listening to them circle, round and round, for hours. At dawn, the footsteps stopped. I pulled back one blanket, looked out. The catwalk was empty, but down below, at the base of the tower, I counted 23 figures, all standing in a circle around the tower base, all looking up. Day 15, there were 40 of them. Day 18, over 70. They filled the clearing around the tower, standing shoulder to shoulder, absolutely motionless, all watching. I stopped opening the windows, stopped going out on the catwalk to check the weather instruments, did everything from inside the cabin, using only the instruments I could access without going outside. The district ranger approved. Stay inside. Whatever you do, stay inside. Supply drop is in 4 days. You can evacuate then if you want. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But something kept me there. Maybe pride, maybe stubbornness, maybe the same thing that made Sam Chen stay for 3 weeks before breaking. Day 21, they started climbing. I heard it at midnight. Sounds from below, scraping, creaking metal. Something climbing the tower structure. Multiple somethings. The tower was 70 feet tall, built from steel beams in a crisscross pattern. Nothing should be able to climb it, but I could hear them ascending, steady and relentless. I grabbed my radio. Base, this is Desolation Peak. They're climbing the tower. I need immediate extraction. Static. Then, Morrison, stay calm. Remain inside. Do not open the door. Do not look at them. They can't get inside unless you let them. How do you know? Because every lookout who stayed inside survived. Trust the protocol. The climbing sounds grew louder, closer, then footsteps on the catwalk again. Dozens of them now, circling the cabin. The entire catwalk filled with footsteps, walking in lockstep, around and around. Then the door handle turned. Slowly, testing. I'd locked it, but the handle turned anyway, pushing against the lock, then stopped. Turned the other direction. Stopped again. Something knocked. 3 times. Polite. Patient. I pressed myself against the far wall, trying not to breathe too loud. More knocking. Louder now, insistent. Then a voice, my voice, coming from outside the door. Jake, let me in, I'm cold. Please, let me in. My own voice, perfect inflection, even the slight rasp I get when I'm tired. But I was inside. I was hearing myself speak from outside. That's not real, I whispered. You're not real. Jake, please. My voice pleading now. They're out here. They're going to hurt me. Let me in. Let yourself in. Then other voices. The district ranger. Morrison, open the door. That's an order. My sister. Jake, why won't you help me? My dead father. Son, open up. We need to talk. Every voice I knew, all speaking from outside the door, all begging me to open it. I covered my ears, closed my eyes, counted to 1,000. When I opened them, the voices had stopped, but the footsteps continued, all night, circling. At dawn, silence. I looked through a gap in the blankets. The catwalk was empty again, but below the figures had multiplied. Over 100 now, filling the entire clearing, the forest beyond standing between trees, on rocks, in impossible positions on steep slopes. All watching. Day 22. I saw what they really looked like. One of the blankets fell during the night. When I woke at 3 a.m., moonlight was streaming through the window, and they were pressed against the glass. Faces. Dozens of faces crowded against every window, looking in. Not human faces, despite the human-shaped bodies. The features were wrong, Eyes too large, mouths too wide, skin like wax that had melted and reformed, and they were smiling. All of them. The same smile, too many teeth, too much joy at seeing me. I screamed. Couldn't help it. And when I screamed, they all opened their mouths wider, mimicking the sound. My scream echoed back at me from dozens of throats, perfectly synchronized. I'd acknowledge them. I'd let them know I could see them. The rules were broken. They started testing the windows, pressing against the glass, pushing. The windows were designed to withstand high winds, heavy snow, but they flexed under the pressure, creaking, beginning to crack. I radioed base. They're breaking in. Send help, please. Helicopters 20 minutes out. Hold on, Morrison. Just hold. The radio died. All electronics died simultaneously. Lights out, weather instruments silent. Even my watch stopped. In the darkness, the sound of breaking glass. They came through the south window first. The glass held for a few seconds, spider webbing, then shattered inward. Cold air rushed in. Then them. They poured through like water, filling the cabin. I felt them around me, cold, dry, wrong, hands touching my face, my arms, examining me like I was a specimen. Their touch left frost on my skin. I swung my flashlight like a weapon. The beam passed through them like they were fog, but they recoiled from the light. I kept it moving, sweeping in circles, keeping them back. Then more windows broke, more of them flooding in. Too many for one flashlight to hold back. They surrounded me, those two wide mouths opening, exhaling breath that smelled like ozone and old ice, speaking in voices I recognized. Everyone I'd ever known, everyone I'd ever loved, all speaking at once. Why did you look? Why did you see us? We were content to watch. Now we have to take you. Now you have to join us. Now you have to watch forever. The flashlight died. In the darkness, they grabbed me, lifted me, carried me toward the broken window. I fought, kicked, screamed, but their grip was absolute. Cold fingers like iron, pulling me toward the 70-foot drop. Then light, brilliant light, the helicopter's searchlight, flooding the tower, the cabin, everything. They dropped me, retreated to the corners, hissing, shrinking from the light. The helicopter hovered outside, its wash whipping through the broken windows. A voice over loudspeaker. Morrison, grab the rescue harness. A basket descended on a cable. I threw myself into it, and they hauled me up. As I rose, I looked down at the tower. Every surface was covered with them. Hundreds, maybe thousands, clinging to the structure, covering the catwalk, filling the cabin, all looking up at me with those wrong faces, all wearing those two wide smiles. And they were waving, every single one. A synchronized farewell. The district ranger met me at base, put a blanket around my shoulders, gave me coffee I couldn't drink because my hands were shaking too hard. You broke protocol, he said. Not angry, just tired. You acknowledged them. What are they? We don't know. Indigenous tribes have stories about watchers in the high places, things that existed before humans, that watched the world form. Maybe they're that. Maybe they're something else. But they're real, and they're at every lookout in these mountains. Why do we keep staffing the towers if we know they're there? Because someone has to watch for fires, and as long as you follow the rules, you're safe. Most lookouts never see them, and those who do, if they ignore them properly, finish their season without incident. And those who don't? He didn't answer, just handed me a folder. Missing person reports. 5 lookouts over the past decade, all disappeared from North Cascades towers. All had reported seeing the watchers. All had broken protocol. What happened to them? We find them sometimes, years later, always at high elevations, always facing north toward the towers, standing like they're watching, like they've joined the watchers. I left the park that day, quit the service, moved to the city, but I still see them sometimes, in crowds in the corner of my eye, standing motionless while everyone else moves, watching me with those wrong faces. And at night I hear footsteps outside my apartment, circling, patient. They're waiting for me to acknowledge them again. I never will, but they're patient, and they're always watching. Story 2, Enord. The emergency call came at 11:47 p.m. There are children in the park. I'm Ranger Lisa Torres, night shift at Yosemite National Park, California. Most people don't think about what happens in parks after dark. They close the gates, assume everyone goes home. But national parks don't close. The wilderness doesn't sleep, and neither do we. I've worked night patrol for 6 years. I've seen things, poachers, lost hikers, wildlife behaving strangely. But I've never gotten a call about children in the park at midnight. What children? I asked the dispatcher. Visitors in the valley are reporting children playing in the meadows, running, laughing, playing games. But ma'am, they're not moving right. I drove to Yosemite Valley, arrived at 12:15 a.m. 3 families stood in the parking lot near Sentinel Meadow, looking spooked. They all pointed to the meadow, a large open area popular for daytime picnics and photos. They're out there, a father said. We heard them first, children laughing. Then we saw them, 5 or 6 kids running in circles, playing tag. But it's midnight, and the way they move, I looked. At first I saw nothing, just moonlit meadow grass, dark trees beyond, then movement. Children. I counted 6 of them, ranging from maybe 6 to 12 years old, running through the meadow, playing chase. Their laughter echoed off the valley walls, high, bright, joyful. But wrong. They moved too fast, covered too much ground. One moment on the west side of the meadow, next moment on the east side, no transition between, and they never stopped. Just ran and ran in patterns that made no sense, laughing constantly. I grabbed my flashlight and radio, approached the meadow. This is Ranger Torres. Children, you need to leave the meadow. The park is closed to recreation after dark. The laughter stopped. All 6 children froze mid-motion. All turned to face me simultaneously. I couldn't see their faces clearly in the moonlight, just silhouettes, small bodies, child-sized. But something about their proportions was off. Then they ran, not away, toward me, fast, impossibly fast. I backed up, hand going to my weapon, but they stopped 10 feet away. Just stopped, standing in a line, all facing me, silent now. Where are your parents? My voice shook despite my training. They didn't answer, just tilted their heads in unison, studying me. Behind me, one of the tourists called out, "Ranger, there's more of them." I turned, at least 20 children now emerging from the tree line, all moving with that wrong, too fast motion, all silent, all approaching. "Everyone back to your vehicles." I radioed for backup. "Torres to dispatch. I need assistance at Sentinel Meadow. Multiple juveniles, no parents present, situation unclear." The children began laughing again. All at once, the same laugh, perfectly synchronized, and they started playing again, running circles around me, around the tourists, weaving patterns in the meadow, but never touching, never coming close, just circling, laughing, playing. I tried to follow one with my flashlight. The beam caught a face just for a second. I wished it hadn't. Not a child's face. The features were right. Eyes, nose, mouth. But the expression was wrong. Ancient, knowing. And the smile was too wide. Backup arrived. Rangers Miller and Santos. They saw the children, tried to corral them. Impossible. The children moved like water, flowing around us, always just out of reach. Their laughter never stopped. "We need to call their parents. Find out where they're staying," Miller said. "Those aren't children," I told him. By 2 a.m., over 50 of them filled the meadow, all playing, all laughing, all moving in those impossible patterns. We couldn't catch them, couldn't communicate with them, couldn't make them leave. Santos found something at the tree line, small footprints in the mud, but they were wrong. Too shallow, like whatever made them weighed almost nothing, and they didn't lead anywhere. Just appeared in the middle of the clearing, no approach trail. Call. At 3 a.m. they stopped. All at once, the laughter cut off mid-giggle. All 50 of them stood perfectly still, facing Half Dome. Silent. Then they walked into the forest. Not running now, walking slowly, single file, into the darkness between trees. We followed with flashlights, but they vanished within seconds. No tracks, no sounds, nothing. The meadow was empty. "What the hell was that?" Miller asked. "I don't know, but I had seen something similar. 3 years ago, at Glacier Point, reports of children playing on the overlook at 3 a.m. When I'd investigated, found nothing. Assumed it was tourists misidentifying wildlife. Now I wasn't sure. I spent the next day researching. Found scattered reports going back decades. Park rangers, tourists, locals, all reporting children in Yosemite after dark. Playing in meadows, laughing in forests, running along trails. Always at night, always behaving strangely. Some reports were over 100 years old. Letters from early park rangers describing ghost children that appeared after midnight. Indigenous tribes had stories about child spirits that lived in the valley, came out at night to play. They weren't harmful, the stories said, just remnants. Echoes of children who died in the valley over centuries. But echoes didn't move, didn't laugh, didn't watch you with ancient eyes. That night I volunteered for patrol again. Drove through the valley at midnight. At Sentinel Meadow, nothing. At Bridalveil Fall, nothing. At Mirror Lake children, dozens of them, playing at the lakeshore, splashing in the shallow water, laughing. In November. In water that was 40 degrees. I parked and approached carefully. They saw me immediately, stopped playing, stood in the water, watching. "Who are you?" I called out. They tilted their heads in unison, then smiled and spoke in unison, all their voices overlapping. "We're the children who stayed. We never left. We play forever now. Where are your parents?" "Gone, long gone, but we're still here. We'll always be here." One of them, a girl, maybe 8 years old, stepped out of the water, walked toward me. Her feet left no prints on the sand. "You're not children," I said. "We were, once, long ago. We died in the valley, fell from cliffs, drowned in rivers, got lost in winter. Died so young we didn't understand death. So we kept playing. We're still playing. We'll play forever." She stopped 5 feet away. This close I could see through her, just slightly, transparent, like morning mist. Your ghosts. We're memories. The valley remembers everyone who dies here, especially children. We're the valley's favorite memories. It keeps us alive, lets us play. You're scaring visitors. We don't mean to, we just want to play. We're so lonely. It's just us every night, for so long. Her voice, their voices still speaking in unison, sounded genuinely sad. "Will you play with us?" "I'm working. I can't. Please, just for a little while. We miss having friends. We miss being alive." The other children emerged from the lake, surrounded me, not threatening, just hopeful, eager, desperate. "What game do you want to play?" I asked. They cheered, a sound like wind through trees. "Tag! Let's play tag!" I shouldn't have agreed, but they looked so sad, so alone. And part of me, the part that remembered being a child, playing in parks at dusk, that perfect freedom, wanted to. We played tag. They were fast, impossibly fast, but they let me tag them sometimes, let me be part of the game. And when they laughed, it sounded real. Not eerie, not wrong, just children laughing. We played for an hour, then they stopped, suddenly alert. "We have to go," the girl said. "Sunrise is coming. We have to sleep now." "Where do you go during the day?" "Back to the valley, back to the memories. We sleep in the rocks and trees, in the water and earth. We dream of being alive. Then night comes and we play again." They walked into the forest, fading as they went. The girl was last. She turned back. "Will you play with us again?" "Maybe. We'll be here, every night, forever." They vanished. I reported everything to my supervisor the next morning. She listened quietly, then opened a locked file cabinet, pulled out a folder labeled Nocturnal Juvenile Phenomena. Inside were reports going back to 1917. Dozens of rangers had encountered the children. All described the same thing: kids playing after dark, moving strangely, claiming to be dead. Official policy is to ignore them, my supervisor said. Don't engage, don't investigate. They're harmless as long as you leave them alone. But they're dead children, ghosts or spirits, or they're a natural phenomenon, part of the park, like geysers in Yellowstone or bioluminescence in some caves. Some places hold memories. Yosemite holds its dead children. They've been here longer than the Park Service. They'll be here long after we're gone. I kept working night shift, kept seeing them. Different locations each night, playing in meadows, climbing trees, swimming in streams. Always children, always playing, always asking me to join. Sometimes I did, when it was slow, when I had time. We'd play tag or hide and seek or just run through the forest. They were good company, lonely but harmless. Then one night I noticed something. The children were getting older. Not physically, they still looked like children, but their eyes were older, their voices deeper, their games more complex. And there were new ones, children who died recently. A boy who drowned last summer, a girl who'd fallen from Glacier Point 3 years ago. They joined the eternal play, added to the valley's collection of young dead. How long have you been here? I asked the first girl, the one I'd met at Mirror Lake. I don't remember. Long enough that the trees have grown and died and grown again. Long enough that the valley has changed shape. Long enough to forget what being alive felt like. She looked at me with those ancient eyes in her child's face. Will you stay with us? When you die, will you play with us forever? I don't plan on dying anytime soon. No one plans it, but everyone dies eventually. And if you die in the valley, you'll stay. The valley keeps everyone who dies here. Adults too, but they don't play. They just watch or wander. But children play. We're the lucky ones. She said it like it was a gift. An eternity of playing in the dark, never growing up, never leaving. Forever children in a valley that remembered them. I don't work night shift anymore. Transferred to day patrol. Can't handle seeing them, knowing what they are. Knowing that every child who dies in Yosemite joins them, trapped in an eternal childhood, playing games in the darkness. But sometimes at dusk, I hear them. Laughter in the meadows, splashing in the streams, the sound of children at play. And I wonder how many of them remember being alive. How many of them want to stop playing. How many of them are screaming, deep inside while they laugh and run and play their endless games, forever. Story 3, room 447, discharged a patient who'd been dead for 3 days. I'm Dr. Sarah Kim, attending physician at St. Vincent's Medical Center in Portland, Oregon, a 600-bed teaching hospital, level 1 trauma center, where I've worked for 8 years in internal medicine. I've pronounced over 200 deaths in my career. I know what death looks like, but I've never seen a dead patient walk out the front door. The patient was Marcus Reeves, 72, admitted 5 days ago with end-stage heart failure. His chart was clear, declining rapidly, DNR order in place, family at bedside. On Tuesday at 2:47 a.m., I pronounced him. Called time of death, documented cessation of cardiac and respiratory function, noted fixed and dilated pupils. I'd signed the death certificate myself. The body went to the morgue at 3:15 a.m. I'd watched them wheel him down, sheet covering his face. Standard procedure. Friday morning, I arrived for rounds. The charge nurse handed me discharge paperwork. Room 447, Marcus Reeves, discharged to home health at 6 a.m. That's impossible. Reeves died Tuesday. She checked her computer. System shows he was discharged this morning. Signed out by Dr. Chen, transferred to home health services with oxygen and cardiac monitoring. I pulled up his chart. She was right. Full documentation, vital signs stable, heart failure managed with medication, patient ambulatory and alert, discharged in good condition. But I'd pronounced him dead. I had the death certificate in my office, waiting to be filed. Where's Dr. Chen? I asked. Called in sick today. Some kind of flu. I went to room 447. Empty bed, stripped and cleaned. No evidence anyone had been there. I checked with housekeeping. They turned the room over Wednesday morning after the body was removed. But the computer said Reeves had been in that room until this morning. Vital signs recorded every 4 hours. Medications administered. Nursing notes documenting his improvement. I called his family. His daughter answered, voice hoarse. Dr. Kim, we're planning the funeral for Monday. The death certificate you sent. I need to ask you something. When did you last see your father? Tuesday morning, when he died. We were with him. You were there. Have you seen him since? Of course not. He's at the funeral home. Why are you asking this? I hung up, called the morgue. Do you have Marcus Reeves? Released to Harper Funeral Home Wednesday afternoon. Standard procedure. I called the funeral home. They confirmed received Marcus Reeves Wednesday, currently in their care, embalming completed yesterday. So Reeves was dead, in a funeral home, being prepared for burial. But according to my hospital's records, he'd been alive in room 447 until this morning, receiving treatment, getting better, walking out the front door. I checked security footage. Tuesday at 3:15 a.m. showed the body being wheeled to the morgue, exactly as I remembered. Wednesday showed the empty room being cleaned. But Thursday's footage showed something impossible. At 11:47 p.m., a figure entered room 447. Walking slowly using the IV pole for support, Marcus Reeves, wearing a hospital gown, moving like someone recovering from serious illness. The footage showed him in the bed, nurses entering to check vitals. Dr. Chen examining him Friday morning at 5 a.m., then Reeves getting dressed, signing discharge papers, walking out with a home health aide at 6 a.m., all while his actual body was at a funeral home. System glitch, the IT director said when I showed him. Database corruption. Sometimes records get duplicated or files get crossed. The discharge documentation is probably from a different patient, misfiled under Reeves's name. What about the security footage? He watched it, frowned. I don't know. Could be old footage that got timestamped wrong, or someone messing with the system. But it wasn't old footage. I was in the background of several shots, wearing the same clothes I'd worn Friday. This was real footage from yesterday and today, showing a dead man receiving treatment. I tried to focus on my other patients, but I couldn't stop thinking about room 447. That night, I volunteered for overnight shift. At 11:47 p.m., I positioned myself near room 447, watching. The lights in the room turned on, by themselves. I approached the door, looked through the window. Empty room, but the bed was adjusting itself, raising to a sitting position. The IV pole rolled forward, positioned beside the bed. Then he appeared, not walking from the door, just appearing, lying in the bed, suddenly present. Marcus Reeves, looking exactly as he had before he died. Eyes closed, chest rising and falling with regular breaths. The monitors activated, showing heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen saturation, all normal values for a recovering cardiac patient. I opened the door, stepped inside. Mr. Reeves? He opened his eyes, looked at me, smiled weakly. Dr. Kim, am I doing better? You died. Tuesday. I pronounced you. I remember. It hurt. My heart stopped. Then everything went dark. He gestured at the room. But then I woke up here. You'd started treatment. The medications were helping. I felt better. Mr. Reeves, your body is at Harper Funeral Home. You're being buried Monday. He looked confused. But I'm here. I can feel the IV, the oxygen. I can breathe. My heart's beating. He put his hand on his chest. I can feel it. I checked the monitors. They showed vital signs. I put my stethoscope to his chest. Heard a heartbeat. Felt a pulse at his wrist. But he was dead. I knew he was dead. What's happening to me? He asked, voice trembling. I don't know. A nurse entered. Janet, one of my best. She looked at Reeves, then at her clipboard. Mr. Reeves, time for your midnight medications. Furosemide and metoprolol. Janet, can you see him? Of course I can see him. Dr. Kim, are you feeling all right? She administered the medications. Reeves swallowed the pills. She documented on his chart, checked his vital signs, then left. I followed her out. Janet, Marcus Reeves died Tuesday. I pronounced him. She checked her tablet. His chart shows admission 5 days ago, steady improvement, scheduled for discharge tomorrow morning. Dr. Kim, I think you should go home. You look exhausted. I went to medical records, pulled Reeves's physical chart. 2 versions, one showing his death Tuesday, one showing continued treatment and improvement. Both real, both in my handwriting. I documented his death and his recovery, simultaneously. Over the next week, 4 more patients died and came back. Not resuscitated, not never died. They died, I pronounced them, documented it, sent bodies to the morgue, and then they reappeared in their rooms, alive and improving. Helen Torres, 81, died Wednesday from stroke. Found her back in her room Thursday, eating breakfast, asking when she could go home. James Wu, 47, died Friday from septic shock. Appeared in his room Saturday, infection resolved, vital signs stable. Each time, 2 sets of records, one showing death, one showing recovery, 2 realities existing simultaneously. The hospital administration noticed, called me in for a meeting. Dr. Kim, we're concerned about your documentation. You're filing death certificates for patients who are still in our care. They died. I was there. I pronounced them. But they're alive now, in their rooms, recovering. They're also dead, at funeral homes, being buried. Both things are true. The chief of medicine looked at me with concern. Sarah, I think you need time off. The stress of this job. Go to room 447 right now. Look at Marcus Reeves, then call Harper Funeral Home. Ask if they have his body. Both things are true. They did. Came back shaken. That's impossible. I know. We assembled a team. 6 doctors, 4 nurses, 2 administrators. We document everything. Prove this was real. We went to room 447 at midnight. Marcus Reeves was there, sleeping peacefully, monitors showing normal vitals. We examined him, physical body, warm skin, palpable pulse, breathing. Then we called Harper Funeral Home. They confirmed Marcus Reeves's body in their care, embalmed in a casket, ready for Monday's funeral. How can he be in both places? The nurse asked. Reeves opened his eyes. Because I died, and I didn't die. Both happened. I'm here and I'm there. I can feel both. This bed and that casket. This room and that funeral home. Everything at once. How is this possible? The hospital remembers. This hospital has seen so much death. Thousands of people dying in these rooms. It remembers all of them. And sometimes, he gestured around, sometimes it brings us back, keeps us alive in its memory. We're still dying, but we're also still here. Forever. Caught between. One of the nurses ran from the room. 2 doctors left, refusing to participate further. But I stayed. I had to understand. How many patients are like this? I asked. All of them. Everyone who ever died here. We're all still in our rooms, still receiving care, still hoping to get better. Even as our bodies are buried or burned, we exist in the hospital's memory. And the memory is real. I spent the rest of the night checking rooms, found dozens of them. Patients who died months ago, years ago, still in their beds, still receiving treatment, still existing in a hospital that remembered them. Some knew they were dead, some didn't. Some were aware of both realities, the hospital room and the grave, existing in both places simultaneously. Why aren't more people seeing this? I asked the charge nurse. They are. We all are. We just file the paperwork and move on. The bodies go to funeral homes. The patients stay in their rooms. Both things happen. After a while, you stop questioning it. How long has this been happening? She checked a record. First documented case was 1973. Dr. Morrison pronounced a patient dead, then found the patient in his room the next day. It's been happening ever since. The hospital remembers. The dead stay. I looked around the floor. Every room had someone in it. Some were recent deaths I recognized. Others were older, Patients from before my time, wearing outdated hospital gowns, watching old TVs that showed programs from decades ago. They were living in memories, hospital memories, stuck in the moment of their care, forever receiving treatment, forever dying and recovering in an endless loop. Does anyone ever leave? I asked. The alive ones do, the dead ones stay, forever, or until the hospital forgets them. But hospitals never forget. I tried to stop it, tried to prevent new patients from getting trapped. But I couldn't. When someone died, they appeared back in their room. When we tried to keep rooms empty after deaths, the patients appeared anyway. The hospital remembered, and its memory was stronger than reality. I stopped fighting it after a month, started accepting that I was working in two hospitals, the real one, where people died and left, and the memory one, where people died and stayed. Most days, both overlapped. I'd do rounds in the morning, seeing living patients. Then at night, I'd see the dead ones. Same rooms, same people, different realities. Last week, I died. Car accident on my way to work. Head trauma, internal bleeding. They brought me to St. Vincent Test, my own hospital. My colleagues worked on me for 47 minutes. Dr. Chen pronounced me dead at 8:34 a.m. But I'm still here, writing this in the doctor's lounge at 2 a.m. My body is at a funeral home. My funeral is Saturday. My family is planning it. But I'm also here, still working, still seeing patients, still doing rounds. The hospital remembered me. Now I'm part of its memory. Forever dying, forever working, forever caught between. I'll do morning rounds at 7 a.m., check on Marcus Reeves in 447. Adjust Helen Torres's medications, monitor James W.'s recovery. They're dead like me, but we're also alive, here in the hospital's memory, taking care of each other, forever. Story 4. The patient transfer request came through at 3:47 a.m., and it was from a hospital that closed 30 years ago. I'm Dr. Marcus Webb, emergency medicine attending at County General Hospital, Chicago, a 400-bed public hospital serving the South Side, where I've worked for 12 years. I've seen everything: gunshots, stabbings, overdoses, traumas that would break most people. But I've never received transfer paperwork from a hospital that doesn't exist. The fax machine in the nurse's station activated, spitting out standard transfer forms. Patient name, Jennifer Oakes, 27, female. Diagnosis, multiple trauma from MVA. Transferring facility, Sacred Heart Medical Center, Chicago. Sacred Heart closed in 1993, demolished in 1995. The land is a parking lot now. I showed the fax to the charge nurse. Is this someone's idea of a joke? She looked at it, frowned. That's weird, but patient info looks legitimate. Maybe they meant to write a different facility name? Could be a typo. The phone rang. Nurse picked it up. County General ER. Yes, we'll accept transfer. She hung up. Sacred Heart is sending us a trauma patient. ETA 15 minutes. Sacred Heart doesn't exist. I just talked to their transfer coordinator. She sounded real to me. I pulled up my phone, searched for Sacred Heart Medical Center, found historical references. Opened 1924, closed 1993 due to budget cuts. Building demolished 1995. Photos showed an old brick hospital, 6 stories, typical early 20th century architecture. But no current location, no active phone number, no website. Yet they were sending us a patient. At 4:02 a.m., an ambulance pulled up. Old ambulance, boxy design from the 1980s, paint faded, rust around the wheel wells, the kind that hadn't been in service for decades. 2 paramedics got out, wearing uniforms that looked outdated, wrong cut, old-style patches. They wheeled out a gurney with a patient, young woman, multiple injuries, actively bleeding. Jennifer Oakes, 27, the lead paramedic said. MVA at 3:30 a.m., extracted from vehicle by fire department. Multiple rib fractures, pneumothorax, suspected internal bleeding. BP dropping. We've given 2 liters fluid en route. We rushed her into Trauma Bay 1. I started the trauma protocol, airway, breathing, circulation. She was critical. Pale, tachycardic, hypotensive, definitely internal bleeding. We need to activate trauma surgery, I told the nurse. She's not stable. While we worked, I noticed details. The blood on her clothes was wrong. Too dark, too thick. Her skin was cold. Not shock cold, deeper cold. Like she'd been in a freezer. And she smelled wrong. Under the blood and dirt, something else. Decay. Old decay, like a body that had been dead for days. But she had a pulse. Weak but present. Lungs moving. Eyes responsive to light. I checked her pupils. They reacted sluggishly. Wrong response. Like her body was going through the motions, but something fundamental was off. "Get trauma surgery down here now," I ordered. The nurse called. Trauma surgeon arrived within minutes. Dr. Patricia Hayes, one of our best. She assessed the patient, prepped for emergency surgery. "We need to move fast," Hayes said. "She's bleeding out." They took Jennifer to the OR. I stayed in the ER finishing documentation. The paramedics had already left. I'd wanted to get more history, but they disappeared while we were stabilizing the patient. I called the number on the transfer paperwork. It rang. Someone answered. "Sacred Heart Medical Center. How may I direct your call?" "This is Dr. Webb at County General. I received a transfer patient from your facility, but I need to verify." "Yes, Dr. Webb. Jennifer Oakes, trauma from MVA. We're a small facility, couldn't handle her injuries. Thank you for accepting the transfer. Where are you located?" 2847 Southwestern Avenue, Chicago. I knew that address. That was where Sacred Heart had been, where the parking lot was now. "Your facility. When did you open?" "We've been serving the community since 1924, doctor. Is there a problem?" "No, no problem." I hung up. I drove to 2847 Southwestern Avenue at dawn. Parking lot, empty, cracked asphalt, weeds growing through. A historical marker noting that Sacred Heart Medical Center had stood here from 1924 to 1993. But I'd received a patient from there, talked to their staff. They were real. Jennifer Oakes survived surgery. Dr. Hayes removed her spleen, repaired liver lacerations, stabilized her. By afternoon, she was in ICU, sedated but stable. I visited her when she woke up. "Miss Oakes, I'm Dr. Webb. You were in a serious accident. You're at County General Hospital. You're going to be okay." She looked at me confused. "What year is it?" 2024. "No." She started panicking, trying to sit up. "No, that's not right. It's 1993. I was driving home from work. A car ran a red light. I crashed. They took me to Sacred Heart. It's 1993. Jennifer, it's 2024. You're safe. I'm dead. I died in that crash. I remember dying. This isn't real. This hospital isn't real." We sedated her, called psych for evaluation, but her words stayed with me. I pulled her medical records. No prior history at County General, no insurance on file. Social Security number came back invalid. Format from the 1990s, never updated to current system. I searched for Jennifer Oakes, 27 years old, MVA victim. Found an obituary from September 1993. Jennifer Marie Oakes died in car accident, treated at Sacred Heart Medical Center, passed away during surgery. Same person, same injuries, same accident. 31 years ago. That night, another transfer from Sacred Heart. David Torres, 41, heart attack. The ambulance was the same. Old, rusted, wrong decade. The paramedics wore outdated uniforms. Torres arrested in our ER. We coded him for 40 minutes. Pronounced dead at 11:47 p.m. But Sacred Heart called the next morning, asking for an update on their transfer patient. "How is Mr. Torres doing?" "He died last night." "Oh," long pause. "That's unfortunate. We'll notify the family. Please send the body to Monroe Funeral Home." Monroe Funeral Home closed in 1997. Over the next week, 7 more transfers from Sacred Heart, all arriving in old ambulances, all patients with injuries or illnesses from the 1980s and 1990s, all already dead, according to records I could find. But they arrived alive, breathing, bleeding, suffering. We treated them. Some survived, some didn't. The survivors were confused, disoriented. All claimed it was decades earlier. All insisted they'd been treated at Sacred Heart, then transferred here. None understood that Sacred Heart was gone. And they were changing, getting colder, paler, their skin taking on a waxy texture, blood turning darker. Within days, they looked like preserved corpses, even though they were walking and talking and showing vital signs. Jennifer Oakes walked the ICU halls at night, dragging her IV pole, visiting other patients. But her surgical wounds weren't healing. They just stayed open, bloodless, like wounds on a corpse. David Torres, who died in our ER, appeared in a room 3 days later, alive again, heart beating, breathing, but cold. Wrong. I keep dying, he told me. I die in your ER, then I wake up back at Sacred Heart. They stabilize me, transfer me here. I die again. Then it repeats, over and over. How many times? I've lost count. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Every time I hope it'll be different. Every time I die. I contacted the paramedics during the next transfer, demanded answers. What hospital are you coming from? Sacred Heart Medical Center, doctor. Same as always. That hospital closed in 1993. Not for us. For us, it's always operating, always full, always sending transfer patients. Why? Because that's what hospitals do. They receive patients, they treat them, they transfer them when they can't help anymore. Sacred Heart couldn't help these patients. So we bring them to you. But they're already dead. They died decades ago. The paramedic looked at me with sad eyes. Yes, but hospitals don't forget their patients. Sacred Heart remembers everyone who died there, and it keeps trying to save them, keeps transferring them, hoping the next hospital can help, hoping somewhere, somehow, they'll survive. That's impossible. Death is impossible until it happens. Hospital memories are impossible until you see them. But here we are, doctor. Here they are. He gestured to the patient on the gurney, a woman with trauma from a 1987 car accident, still fresh, still bleeding, still dying 37 years later. I stopped accepting transfers from Sacred Heart, told our intake coordinator to refuse them. But they came anyway. Ambulances appeared at our ambulance bay, patients already unloaded, paperwork already filed. We couldn't turn them away. They needed help. Even if that help was futile, even if they'd been dead for decades, the ICU filled with them. Patients from the 1980s and 1990s, all transferred from Sacred Heart, all dying repeatedly, all trapped in an endless loop of injury and treatment and death in return. And they were spreading. Patients from County General who died started appearing back in their rooms. Not immediately, but days or weeks later. Transferred from Sacred Heart, because County General was sending its dead to Sacred Heart's memory, and Sacred Heart was sending them back. A closed loop, a cycle of death and memory and resurrection. I tried to break it, tried to prevent our dead from being transferred, but I couldn't. Death happened, and memories formed, and hospitals remembered. Last night I died. Cardiac arrest in the doctor's lounge. Stress, exhaustion, undiagnosed heart condition. My colleagues coded me for 33 minutes. Pronounced dead at 2:47 a.m. But I woke up at Sacred Heart, in a room I'd never seen but somehow remembered. Old equipment, old monitors, old everything. Staff in outdated uniforms treating me, stabilizing me. You arrested, a nurse told me, but we got you back. We're transferring you to County General. They can help you there. Sacred Heart closed in 1993. Not for you, doctor. For you, it's always open. For all of us who died there, it's always open. The ambulance is coming. I can hear the siren. They'll take me to County General, my own hospital. My colleagues will treat me. I'll probably die there. Then I'll wake up here again, at Sacred Heart, in its memory. The cycle continues, forever. Story 5. The distress signal was coming from a lighthouse that had been automated for 40 years. I'm Grace Hartley, Coast Guard Station Commander at Cape Disappointment, Washington, the graveyard of the Pacific. I've coordinated 200+ rescues in 12 years, seen boats shattered on rocks, helicopters crash in storms, people swallowed by waves that shouldn't exist. But I've never received a mayday call from Point Adams Lighthouse. Not since they removed the keeper in 1983. The call came through at 2:47 a.m. on emergency channel 16. Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Point Adams Lighthouse. Multiple vessels in distress. Heavy fog, equipment failure, crew disoriented. Require immediate assistance. We have 17 souls in the light station. Water rising. Please respond. I grabbed the radio. Point Adams, this is Station Cape Disappointment. Confirm your situation. Static then. Station, the fog came in at midnight. Ships started running aground. We've pulled survivors from the water, but the tide's rising. The lighthouse is flooding. We need evacuation now. Point Adams. That station has been unmanned since 1983. Who am I speaking with? Keeper Thomas Barrett. I've been stationed here since '79. Please, we're drowning. I launched 2 response boats into the Columbia River Bar, the most dangerous waters in North America. 4 crew, full rescue gear, night operations. The fog was thick, visibility 20 feet, but we knew these waters. Point Adams, lighthouse sat on a rocky outcrop where the Columbia River met the Pacific. Decommissioned decades ago, automated lights still operational, no keeper's quarters, no habitable structures, just a tower with an automated beacon. We reached it at 3:30 a.m. The lighthouse stood dark, beacon off, which was wrong. Emergency backup should have activated, but more wrong. Lights in the keeper's quarters, windows glowing warm yellow, smoke from the chimney. The keeper's quarters had been demolished in 1985. Do you see that? My XO asked, pointing. I saw it. A building that shouldn't exist. 2-story keeper's house, attached to the lighthouse, looking exactly like historical photos from the 1950s. And people inside, silhouettes moving past windows. We approached the rocks carefully. Someone stood on the landing platform, waving a lantern. A man in old-style Coast Guard uniform. Wrong decade, wrong insignia. Thank God you're here, he called out. I'm Keeper Barrett. We've got survivors from 3 vessels. They need medical attention. Sir, this station was decommissioned in 1983. There's no keeper's quarters here. He looked confused. What are you talking about? I've been keeper here for 4 years. Now please help us with these people. We tied off, climbed the platform. The building was real. Solid wood, cold stone, the smell of coal smoke and wet wool. Inside, 17 people crowded in the keeper's quarters. All soaking wet, shivering, wrapped in blankets. All wearing clothing from different eras. Some modern, some from decades past. A woman in a 1960s dress. Our yacht hit the rocks. The fog came out of nowhere. We couldn't see the lighthouse warning. A man in 1990s sailing gear. Our fishing boat. The instruments went crazy. Compass spinning, GPS dead. We ran aground. A teenage boy in clothes from the 1940s. The ferry. It sank so fast. I don't know what happened to the others. Different disasters. Different decades. All here, now, in a building that didn't exist. Keeper Barrett handed me a logbook. I've documented everything. 17 vessels wrecked tonight. Unprecedented fog. We pulled out everyone we could. I opened the log. Entries going back to 1979. Written in careful script. Daily weather observations, vessel traffic, maintenance records. The final entry was today's date, November 19th, 2024. Heavy fog, multiple vessel incidents, awaiting Coast Guard rescue. But between the last 1983 entry and today, 41 years of blank pages. Sir, what's the last date you remember before tonight? He checked his watch. Today is November 19, 1983. Why? It's 2024. He laughed. That's not funny. I just spoke to Station Astoria this morning. Got the weather report, storm coming in tonight, which is why I'm worried about these survivors. I radioed back to base. Commander Hardley to Cape Disappointment. We've got a situation at Point Adams. 17 survivors, conditions impossible, requesting immediate backup. Copy that. What's the nature of the impossible conditions? I looked around at the keeper's quarters that shouldn't exist. The keeper from 1983, who thought it was still 1983. The survivors from different decades all present simultaneously. I don't know how to explain it. Just send everyone. My XO was interviewing survivors. Each had a different story, different wreck, different year. But all of them believed it was the night they'd wrecked. A woman from 1972 insisted Nixon was president. A man from 2001 asked if we'd heard about the World Trade Center attacks. They were all trapped in their own time, their own disaster, all converging on this impossible lighthouse. The backup team arrived an hour later. They saw what we saw, the keepers' quarters, the survivors, everything. We started evacuating people to the boats, but as soon as they stepped outside the lighthouse, they changed. The woman from 1972, aged 40 years and seconds, collapsed on the rocks, gasping. What's happening to me? I'm so old suddenly. Where am I? The man from 2001 looked around in confusion. This isn't 2001. Those boats are wrong. Everything's wrong. What year is this? They were being pulled forward to the present, decades passing in moments. Get them back inside, I ordered. When we brought them back into the keeper's quarters, they reverted. The woman from 1972 was young again. The man from 2001 relaxed, his memories resetting. The lighthouse is holding them, Barrett said, keeping them in their moment. If they leave, time catches up. How is this possible? The lighthouse remembers. Every ship that wrecked here, every life lost, the fog brings them back, and the lighthouse keeps them safe. It's always done this, ever since the first keeper. The building might be gone in your time, but in ours, in the time of the wrecks, it still stands. I explored the keeper's quarters. 2 stories, exactly matching historical records. Kitchen with a coal stove, burning warm. Upstairs bedrooms where some survivors slept. A radio room with equipment from the 1980s, crackling with maritime traffic that sounded distant, ghostly. And photographs. Dozens of them covering the walls. Lighthouse keepers from different eras. Some I recognized from historical records. Keepers who'd served here over 140 years of operation. All of them standing in the same spot, on the same rocks, wearing their period uniforms. Barrett pointed to the most recent photo. That's me, taken last month. The photo showed Barrett, but also something else. Behind him, barely visible, other figures, transparent, ghostly. Other keepers from other times, all standing together. We're all still here, Barrett said quietly. Every keeper who ever served. When you serve the lighthouse keeps you, forever. We watch the water, warn the ships, save the survivors. We never leave. You're dead. Yes, probably. I don't remember dying, but I remember the fog getting thicker. Remember feeling cold. Remember deciding to check on the light, and then I just kept keeping. Every night the same, waiting for ships that need warning, saving people who need saving. The fog outside was changing, getting thicker, and I heard it, foghorns, dozens of them from different eras, different types of vessels, ghost ships moving through ghost fog, replaying their final voyages. It happens every night, Barrett said. Ships that wrecked here replay their disasters. Some nights it's just 1 or 2. Tonight is special. November 19th. The worst wreck in Columbia River Bar history happened November 19th, 1983. 13 vessels lost, 47 dead. I was here. I tried to save them. The fog was so thick the lighthouse couldn't reach far enough. They couldn't see the light. That's the night you died. Maybe. Or maybe that's the night I became permanent keeper. Either way, I'm still here, still watching. And every November 19th, they all come back. All 47, plus everyone else who ever wrecked here. The lighthouse tries to save them all over again. I counted the survivors, 17 inside. Barrett said 47 died that night in 1983. Where are the other 30? He pointed out the window. In the fog, I saw them. Figures in the water, clinging to wreckage, calling for help. But when my crew went to rescue them, they vanished. Appeared somewhere else. Always just out of reach. We can't save them, Barrett said. They're trapped in the moment of drowning. Forever drowning, forever calling for help, forever just beyond reach. That's their hell. Mine is watching them and being unable to help. My radio crackled. More rescue boats arriving. But they were wrong. Old Coast Guard cutters from the 1980s, 1970s, earlier. Ghost rescuers responding to ghost maydays. All of us from different times, all trying to save people who were already dead. I tried to leave, walked to the door, but when I stepped outside, I felt it. Time pulling at me, trying to move me forward or backward. I couldn't tell. Reality was fluid here, at the lighthouse. Past and present and future all existing simultaneously. Don't go out in the fog, Barrett warned. You'll get lost in time, stuck in a wreck that isn't yours. We've lost rescuers that way. They go into the fog and don't come back. Or they come back, but it's not them anymore. They've been in the fog so long, they've become part of it. I pulled back inside. How do we stop this? You don't. This is what the lighthouse does. What it's always done. It marks the dangerous passage, warns the ships, and when ships wreck anyway, it remembers them, keeps them, replays their final moments, hoping for a different outcome. The fog was clearing now, dawn approaching, and as the fog lifted, the keeper's quarters began fading, the walls becoming transparent, the survivors starting to vanish. We're going back now, Barrett said. Back to our times, our wrecks, our moments. We'll return tomorrow night and the night after, forever. But you need to leave. If you stay until we're fully gone, you'll be trapped too, become part of the lighthouse's memory. Just another rescuer who tried to save people who can't be saved. I evacuated my crew. We ran for the boats as the building faded around us. Behind us, I heard Barrett calling out, "Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Point Adams Lighthouse. Multiple vessels in distress. Require immediate assistance." The same call, starting over. An eternal loop. We made it to the boats, pulled away from the rocks. When I looked back, the keeper's quarters were gone. Just the lighthouse tower standing dark and automatic. No lights, no smoke, no building, nothing. But I could still hear the foghorns and the mayday calls, and Barrett's voice forever requesting assistance that would never be enough. I filed a report. Command thought I'd had some kind of episode. Stress, hallucination, maybe carbon monoxide from our boat engine. The crew backed me up, but that just meant we all had the same hallucination. But I know what I saw. I've been back to Point Adams a dozen times. During the day, there's nothing, just rocks and an automated lighthouse. But at night, when the fog rolls in, I see lights in windows that don't exist. Hear voices calling for help. See ships that wrecked decades ago replaying their final moments. And I hear Barrett, still keeping the light, still trying to save people, still replaying that night in 1983 when 47 people died and he became the permanent keeper. The lighthouse remembers. It always remembers. And it keeps everyone who ever tried to answer its call.